Still unsolved is one of Ireland's most disturbing mysteries, the disappearance, without a single trace, of Conor and Sheila Dwyer. The married couple were living in Fermoy, County Cork, when they went missing in May 1991, resulting in over 34 years of intensive investigation. Aged 62 and 61 respectively, Conor and Sheila had their home in Chapel Hill, Fermoy, a working-class town in County Cork. The couple were described as well-liked and respected members of their community. Conor worked as a chauffeur and handyman for a German millionaire named Fritz Wolf, who had a holiday abode near Castle Lyons House outside of Fermoy. Because Conor's job included driving Wolf's vintage Rolls-Royce around town, many locals wrongly assumed that he himself was wealthy. Conor also had a history of depression, for which he'd been hospitalised in the past and struggled with for years. Despite this, neighbours described him as someone who was fond of life and never in bad form, so his mental health was not an issue before he disappeared. Sheila was a homemaker and close to her sisters, especially Maisie and Nellie, whom she regularly called. Neighbours described her as lovely, polite, and an elegant dresser. By the time of the couple's disappearance, both of their adult sons were living and working in London. One son, Conor Jr., later said he couldn't think of anyone who disliked his parents. They had no enemies and no drama associated with their lives. The quiet, reserved couple were friendly but kept to themselves. The last confirmed physical sighting of Sheila and Conor was on Tuesday, April 30th, 1991, when they were seen walking from their home to St Patrick's Church for a funeral. A local girl who knew them said hello. Then the following day, May 1st, Sheila called her sister Maisie. Their brief conversation was nothing unusual, wherein Sheila didn't mention or even hint at any problems or say they were going anywhere. This was the last contact anyone had with them. Then 3 weeks went by without any phone calls, letters, or other attempts at contact. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit like. It really helps to keep the channel growing. And if you're new here, subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest videos. We've got lots of strange and fascinating stories coming up, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. This silence was completely out of character, causing Sheila's sisters to become worried. Conor and Sheila had gone on holidays before, but had always told someone where they were going. The sisters called friends, relatives, and Conor's co-workers, but nobody had heard from them. So on May 22nd, they contacted the Gardaí, the Irish police, and asked them to check the house. When the Garda entered the property on Chapel Hill, they found the house completely undisturbed, with beds neatly made, appliances turned off, and some blinds down. Both Conor and Sheila's reading glasses were on the living room couch, and their passports still in the house. A biscuit tin, hidden in a location only family members knew about, contained over 1,000 in Irish pounds, a significant amount of money in 1991. And the couple's bank accounts showed no major withdrawals. Most of their clothing was still in the house, suggesting they hadn't packed for a long trip. There was no sign of a struggle or forced entry, no evidence that anything violent had occurred there. The only thing missing was Conor's car, a white Toyota Cressida with license plate number 5797ZT. The car has never been found, and investigators believe that locating it is the key to solving the entire case. In other unexplained disappearance cases around the world, investigators have noted a recurring pattern where individuals vanish suddenly, leaving behind personal belongings, money, and travel documents. The Gardaí launched a full investigation. They searched the River Blackwater, which runs right through Fermoy, multiple times, theorising that maybe the car went into the water. Divers went down, but found nothing. The Gardaí also checked ferry records to see if the Dwyer's car had left Ireland, but uncovered no match. Investigators put out appeals asking if anyone had seen parts of a Toyota Cressida being sold or scrapped, again without results. They also examined whether Conor was involved in anything illegal, such as drugs, or was in debt, but found no evidence of that. The couple had just received an offer on a plot of land they were selling, so were definitely not in financial trouble. In 1993, the case was featured on the TV program Crime Line. The show did a full reconstruction of the couple's last known movements and made a public appeal for information. Hundreds of tips came in, but none led anywhere concrete. However, strangely, after the couple's disappearance, there were multiple reported sightings of them, both in Ireland and overseas. In June 1991, a woman from Cork was at the airport in Lourdes, France, where she saw a couple whose behaviour seemed odd. She didn't identify them at the time, but later, when she saw the Crime Line appeal, became convinced they were the Dwyers. In 1993, another possible sighting in Munich, Germany, got Interpol involved because of Conor's connection to Fritz Wolf. However, Bavarian police could not confirm it. Wolf was interviewed by the Gardaí, but he hadn't even been in Ireland when the couple disappeared, another lead that ran cold. Investigators concluded that all of the sightings were cases of mistaken identity. Of the several theories now directing this cold case, one is that the Dwyers were involved in a car accident, that the vehicle went down in the River Blackwater or other body of water but was never found. This theory gained some traction in 2012 when divers found the car of William Fennessy, another Fermoy resident who disappeared in 1990, sitting at the bottom of the Blackwater with his remains inside. The car had been there for over 20 years, missed by multiple searches. A second theory was voluntary disappearance, that the couple had decided to leave their old lives behind and start afresh somewhere else. The problems with this theory were that they had left their passports behind, as well as their saved cash and reading glasses. Ferry records show their car never left Ireland, and neither made any financial withdrawals that would suggest a plan to run. If they were starting a new life, they did it with no resources or planning, which makes no sense for a couple described as methodical and routine-oriented. A third theory is foul play, that they were harmed through either a random or targeted event. However, there was no evidence of a struggle at their home or even of forced entry. There were no ransom demands and no witnesses reporting anything suspicious. And again was the unexplained disappearance of the car. If someone had slain the couple, then the vehicle and or their bodies would surely have been discovered. The fourth theory hinges on Conor's history with depression, with some suggesting the couple may have taken their own lives together. However, again, the disappearance of the car and no trace of their bodies tends to mitigate against this. Sheila was described as close to her family and regularly contacting her sisters, so was unlikely to have suddenly agreed to such a plan without any warning signs. In 2024, 33 years after the Dwyer's disappearance, the Gardaí made another TV appeal on the program Crime Call. They specifically asked if anyone remembered seeing the couple in areas like Cobb or had conversations with them around the time they vanished. There was a development, with people coming forward with new information. In 2025, investigators announced they were pursuing fresh leads related to Conor's employment and interactions he had with co-workers in the weeks before he disappeared. One line of inquiry involves conversations Conor had at work shortly before May 1991, and this investigation is ongoing. Conor Jr. described the tragically puzzling case in an interview in 2008. He said, "There's a void of information. It's very bizarre and inexplicable. It's a living nightmare. It rattles around in my brain all the time. For the family of Sheila and Conor, there is no closure and no answers to their questions." In 2017, when Sheila's sister Maisie passed away, the obituary referred to Sheila as the late Sheila Dwyer, which indicates what the family came to believe. After more than 3 decades, hope of finding them alive is gone, but the mystery remains, and investigators are still working on it. The disappearance of Conor and Sheila Dwyer is one of Ireland's most enduring unsolved cases. If you know anything at all about this case, contact the Gardaí, whether you saw something in 1991 that seemed unimportant at the time, or even heard a vague rumour. Somewhere out there is a white Toyota Cressida with licence plate 5797ZT. Finding that car could finally give this family the answers they've been waiting 34 years for.